2006. The idea came about for the millennium when John Stamp and David Brown, who no longer are at the gallery, had the idea of doing this millennium embroidery. And they managed to get practically half the community together to design this embroidery that depicts the village of Sunbury. Where I'm sitting at the moment is in the beautiful walled garden. It's an absolutely delightful place to work. It's just a job that I absolutely love. One of the things that was very close to my heart was to have more access for people with disabilities of all kinds, just to be open for everybody to see art. That's where Annie Fennymore comes into it, who I contacted by email over a year ago to ask her if she'd put some artwork in for this children's exhibition we were doing, where they were making work for blind people. And having seen her work, and I've since visited her in her home, she is absolutely incredible. I mean, what really surprised me was her working place, where most artists work in big galleries with lots of light, and she's in complete darkness in a shed. But the work around her is so vibrant, colourful. It's like Annie herself, it's a projection of her. So it came about that we just kept in touch, and I said to Annie, would you like to do a solo exhibition with us? And she said yes, she would. And since then, this whole thing has snowballed, and she's had her work framed, she's produced more work, and I think it's a very exciting period for us, and I'm so looking forward to her exhibition here. I think her talk will be a revelation to lots of people.
My name is Annie Fennymore, and I'm the founder and creator of Blind Alley Art. Some of the results you can see around you. I am sure you would agree with me that curiosity is our greatest driving force. So with that in mind, if I may, I'd like to share with you how I lost my sight, how I got into art, and what I hope for the future. I lost my sight. I won't get gory, truly I won't. I lost my sight some years ago, and it was a good few years before it was recognised that I would lose my sight at the age of 40. In fact, I was 28 when I was told I'd have no vision by 40. By that, I mean it wasn't an acute, sudden moment. What happened was I had a prescribed drug, and unfortunately it reduced the level of oxygen to my eyes, and therefore the sight began to go. And I didn't notice this until some while later. Once the vision had reduced to, well, next to nothing, I then discovered that I'd had bilateral cataracts, which is quite unusual for, as I was then, a very young woman of 28, 30-ish. Now, I had those dealt with, and I won't get gory, but they left scarring, and then I finished it all off by falling down a flight of stairs. And I ended up on the stairs, or for those who might have a visual impairment, I'm doing elongated Z. And the top part was my neck, and this part was my rear end and my hip. And my coccyx ended up the size of a bath sponge. It took me about 3 months before I could actually walk properly again. But with all of that in mind, we also had a great deal of stuff at home to deal with. Not least, our granddaughter died. And she died, and that was what brought me into art. But I'll go back to the eyesight. The one thing I didn't sit in the corner and moan. In fact, I think Barbara, who knows me very well, and of course Jan, And I don't see things as challenges, like I've got to get out and I've got to do that. I've got to climb Everest because I couldn't do it before, something I don't do that. But what I did do was I accepted the sight loss, and to such a way that I actually saw it as a beginning. In fact, I don't see endings, I only see beginnings. And so I knew it was going to be a very long, somewhat protracted, which indeed it was, because the last of the vision went when I was nearly 50. And so I found myself one day standing in our local chemist when they were having a sale of paints. And my husband said to me, "Whatever are you doing?" I said, "I'm buying acrylic paint." And he said, "Why?" I said, "I don't know." What I didn't realise then, of course, was that I was looking towards art as a therapy. And so John cut me some hardboard, and I set to. And what I did was I painted, you have to find them, the four of the little girl having fun by the sea. They're down there, I think. And I did those with hugely magnified sheets and magnifying specs. And once my daughter had found herself on her feet, I then set to and did these paintings. And all they show is a little girl having fun by the sea, and it's my tribute to my granddaughter. With those done, I then finished it off by doing a painting of poppies, and not the ones you'll see here this evening, for my daughter's 30th birthday. Then I sat down and scratched my head. I thought, I don't know what to do now. Then we moved. And we moved from there over to St Osyth in Essex. Whilst we were there, we discovered a wonderful place called the Essex Blind charity. And I offered my services as a volunteer. A few months went past, and suddenly, Joan Fallows, who's with us this evening, came along to one of our training sessions, and she was to be our new resource coordinator. And with her there, and in her background as an artist in her own right, she was very, very keen to have an art group for our visually impaired in Clacton. She asked, was very interested in the work I'd completed, and she asked if she could come and have a look. So I said, yes, of course. And she came in and she looked at them, and she said, oh, they're interesting. And she said I'd re-inspired her, and she also added that she was definitely going to have an art group. And thankfully the directors agreed. Jan teaches as well, and Jan actually stretches me like a piano wire until I ping and I get it right. So with that in mind, we're walking around B&Q one day, and my husband said, they've got putty. I said, good for B&Q. And he said, no, he said, I'm thinking you might be able to do something with it. And indeed I did. What I did with it, rolled it all up and put it out into strings. And I would press it onto the canvas or the card, whatever I'd got. And then the painting of it began. And I had to use my fingers. I was then introduced to all the acrylic gels. And they come in various sizes and shapes and fillings, as I like to call them. Some have got glass beading in it, some have got black lava gel in it, some are just very thick sculpting gels that you can really doll upon and then use almost like sand it down. So by this time I'm getting a good ideas, but it's taking that leap of faith from the structured and onto the lava gels. This is how it really all turned around. There was a competition of the Helen Keller International Award 2011, and I'd finished the portrait of Amber, which you will see in the gallery, and I was very excited about it, but I wasn't quite sure if it worked. I loved it, but I wasn't very confident of it, and I thought, well, I won't show Jan yet, and I was going to hide it under the dresser, but she spotted it. And she said, oh, it's one of yours, and I said yes, and she said it was lovely, so I thought, good. So when I tentatively asked her one afternoon, have I got the it factor-ish to enter for this competition? And she said yes, and I did. And I won a highly commended award for my portrait of Amber, £250, which was lovely. But the most loveliest thing was it gave me the confidence to go deep inside myself to see just what else I could produce that was recognisable. And forgive me for saying this, but there is a certain amount of vanity with art, and if any of you are into art, you want people to like your work, but you want them to be honest, but you want it to be recognisable. And whilst my art is, and I'm sure that you would agree, is abstract and impressionist, it is all recognisable. You don't have to, I think there might be a couple, but you won't have to stand there, scratch your head and wonder if I've done the meaning of life in something or other, which of course I haven't. Now, this is how I do my work. First of all, I get an image in my mind. It may be an inspiration, as I say, from a piece of poetry. It may be from a conversation. It might be just a word. And I get the image firmly there. I sit down very quietly and work out how I'm going to get that image on the canvas, because I have to start at the back and build it up. So once I've got the image, I then go for the blue tack and I pinch pieces off. And this makes everybody laugh when I do that. If I've got a cliff coming down there, then I pinch the pieces off and I follow in my mind's eye where that cliff is. Then I go for the raised medium that I want. It could be the lava gel, it could be the sculpting gel. It might even be PVA in water with a tissue or a kitchen towel, something like that. Then I press it all on, right up to where the blue tack is. And then, having painted the background, which I've forgotten to mention, and then I wait for it to dry. When I begin a new piece, and I've had no others there, I actually put I do run two consecutively, so I've got something always to work on. So, with that, I delve into the big pot of the gel that I've got, and I press it on, and I put on loads and loads and loads. And it does settle a little bit, but then I have to wait about 24 hours for it to set and to harden. And then the fun time comes. Now, I work in my garden shed, and when I'm in there, Mary comes with me. And she has been known to come out of the garden shed looking like a rainbow, because I get these big tubes of paint, squish it goes and squish, and off I go, and that's how I do it. I paint with my fingers. You're probably asking, how do I know my colours? Well, we are going to show you. This is where where magic comes in, because it's not really me, it's magic, you know. When this little pen friend came into being, I was absolutely, well, made up, because it saved all my memory. And it gave me, it was a turning point in the art, of course, because it allowed me to have more colours. I could get more muted colours, more depth by using different colours. So, I did this on radio, I have to tell you, and it didn't work then, so, you know, everybody pray to the fairy god or whatever. Here we go. Now, oh yes, it's in. Okay. Now, when these are purchased, they are bought with a set of labels. And these labels are really barcodes. At the top here, there's a little recorder. And at the bottom, it's the barcode reader. So what we do, what's the magic? Okay, we'll go and do some magic. Here is the label. So we will take the point, which is the barcode, and we'll go black. There you go. But if by chance we'll say, for instance, this is sky blue, this is how you would do it. We go right down to the bottom knob. But you glad you came out, blue. And? It really is magic. So for me, you can imagine how much this really changed my artwork, and I think if you really have a look around, you'll be able to see that too. The other thing I use is a glue gun. And this is a feat for me, because I let the glue gun literally go where it wants to run to, wait for it to dry, and then I go over it and decide what it really means to me, and then I paint it from there. And if I can just at this point come to poppies, which I think is there. This was a compelling piece for me. And it was compelling because I had it in mind. I support the Royal Marines Association, and this piece is up for sale or auction. We're in a sort of a two-step with it at the moment. And all the money raised or I should say all the proceeds, will actually go to the RMA appeal. So there's a lot resting on this one. That is actually made with, I got this wrong this morning, not flapjack cases, what do you call them? Muffin cases, that's it, and fairy cake cases. And what I did, I scrunched them all up, put a load of glue down, and really pressed them on. And then the smaller cake cases, and they are the tiny fairy cake cases, I scrunched up, damped a little, and then squished it on again. Once they were all dry, I went over it with sculpting gel, and then the fun bit came with the red paints, and there are 4, if not 5 different colours of red there. The leaves are done from cardboard, and then I put the tactile lava gel over the top, and then to finish it off, I actually put like a pearlescence highlighter around it, so the light would always catch it and make them look, hopefully, like they're fluttering. But when it comes to the future, now, we had, this exhibition is supported by the Arts Council, and I'm sure you've seen the logos around. And I feel very privileged because anybody who has approached the Arts Council for a grant really gets it. And I got the grant, which absolutely thrilled me to bits. And we have their full support, and there are many things we have to do. But because of that and the form that we had to complete, what we did, we had to really turn ourselves inside out and ask, why are we doing what we're doing? And the reason is very simple. I turned to art as a therapy, and Jan actually is an arts vision therapy teacher. And we realised, well, that was it, that's what we're doing. So we're going to do, if you like, a fail-safe workshop manual. And we're going to offer it to any groups who want to show the work, teach the work, use it as a therapy. We've had a great deal of interest, and that is where Blind Alley Art, hopefully, will go for the future. I'm sure you must have some questions, but before we do, I'd like to leave you with these words. Now, on my website, these words will open, as you go open my website, these are the words that will reach you. Whatever you want to do it because you really want to, do it with love because it will show, and I hope my passion shows here. Thank you for listening.